And Alexis Davis is first up.
This will be a flyweight.
It's a flyweight bout on the prelims of the UFC on Fox 30 card. And the opponent, of course, is Caitlin Chikadian. Davis, of course, a former 135er who has made the drop down recently.
$126.
126 is the weight for Alexis Davis.
All right, we're off to a good start.
It's still early, Alex.
First one for one.
Up next, Cajun Johnson,
Cajun Johnson.
who meets Islam Makhachev on the prelims.
Cajun is the man the UFC just cannot get rid of. They keep giving him tough matchups. He keeps knocking them dead. So, but this is another super tough matchup. He's in a very good mood. $155.
Cajun Johnson hits 155.
No problem.
The always loquacious Cajun Johnson. As you mentioned, Alex, Cajun Johnson's won 4 in a row. And here comes Alex Morono. He hits 170 on the nose. He, of course, faces Jordan Mean in the feature fight of the prelims.
Jordan Mean, more Canadian content.
John Makdessi, speaking of Canadians.
That's right. The Bull. Here comes the Bull.
About to enter the room here. He'll be meeting another solid striking veteran in Ross Pearson on the Fight Pass prelims on Saturday. $155 for John Makdessi.
John's posing right now. He's a stout lightweight, but he's short. I've always wondered if he can make featherweight, and but he's had trouble making lightweight before, so he's kind of stuck in that no man's land. But very talented guy.
Are you advocating for someone to do an extreme weight cut, Alice?
I would never do such a thing. This is strictly speculation, conjecture, discussion, something for our viewers at home to talk about.
I heard that you put the con in conjecture. Is that true? Ross Pearson coming into the room now. Right after his opponent, John Makdessi, weighs in. Pearson will step on the scale. $155 for Ross Pearson. And the room is so crowded that I can't can't even see the scale or the fighter.
Yeah, we can only see a little bit of scale, and our dear Esther Lynn at the front as well. We can see her.
I was actually just throwing shade at my good friend Evelyn Rodriguez from Combache. Alvaro Herrera about to come into the room and step on the scale. He is in the curtain jerker of the UFC on Fox 30 card on Fight Pass.
The party starter, as I like to call it.
You could say that. And he's facing Devin Powell. Always get this beginning rush of fighters who are lined up, ready to go right at 9 a.m. local time for the early weigh-ins. And then it almost always fizzles out, and we're always waiting for a handful for almost the entire 2 hours. That has been the formula for the early weigh-ins in recent weeks and months.
These are the keeners, Mark. I love the keeners. I was a keener in school, in case you couldn't tell by my enthusiasm. Tecia Torres.
Tecia Torres, the tiny tornado, in the room now, about to step on the scale. She, of course, has Joanna Jedrzejczyk on the main card Saturday night. 115 on the nose for Tecia Torres. Arguably the biggest fight of her career on Saturday night. Not much of a weight cut for Tecia, Alex. Was saying at Media Day that she just ate Olive Garden a few nights ago
really?
with the breadsticks.
You know, she's
full
never
carb load for Tecia Torres.
She's never had a problem making weight. She's in ridiculous shape. Makhachev. Yeah.
Islam Makhachev in the room now with his training partner, Khabib Nurmagomedov. You might have heard of him. Makhachev hits 156 for his fight with Cajun Johnson on the prelims tomorrow night. Khabib Nurmagomedov gives him some water after the weigh-in, picks up his flip-flops like a good training partner would. We'll, of course, be hearing from Mr. Nurmagomedov later on tonight before the ceremonial weigh-ins for a fan Q&A, so tune in to MMAfighting.com for that as well. Heidi. Gazmirad Antigulov hitting the scale now for his light heavyweight fight against Ian Cutelaba. 205 even for Mr. Antigulov.
Unbeaten in the UFC so far. It's one to watch. Certainly might not be a familiar name to a lot of people, but get used to saying Gadzhimurad Antigulov. Rolls right off the tongue.
Don't forget, this fight was supposed to happen at UFC 217 at Madison Square Garden, but Antigulov pulled out with an injury, and then Cutelaba pulled out with a potential UFC anti-doping violation after the weigh-ins on that card.
Yes, the Hulk, as he refers to himself, unfortunately.
Devin Powell coming into the room now. Powell's facing easy for me to say, Alvaro Herrera. which shouldn't be a tongue twister, but apparently it was in the opener Saturday night.
155.
155 for Devin Powell.
Our own Luke Thomas and Danny Segura are going to kill you for not nailing those R's on Alvarez Herrera. Or they're going to kill me for getting it wrong.
It's too early for me to be rolling R's, unfortunately.
Devin Powell, very talented guy from the New England area, just hasn't had luck in the UFC. But. Dustin Ortiz.
Dustin Ortiz coming into the room. A very, very interesting flyweight fight on the UFC Fight Pass prelims Saturday night against Mateus Nicolau, underrated 25er. Ortiz is a bit of an underrated 25er himself. $125 on the nose for Dustin Ortiz, the Tennessee native.
Yeah, Nicolau's really made his name actually knocking off more experienced guys than him. Luis Smoko in his last fight, and then Moraga in his UFC debut. So Ortiz could be next. It's really good matchmaking for Nicolau, very talented Brazilian kid. So looking forward to see what he does. But it also could be biting off a lot more than chew. Dustin Ortiz is tough.
Nina Ansaroff heading in now. She meets Randa Marcos. And of course, alongside her, Amanda Nunes, the UFC Women's Bantamweight Champion, longtime girlfriend of Nina Ansaroff.
116?
116 for Ansaroff. Another big 115-pound fight on this card. Nunes, of course, is kind of jockeying for position for a fight with Chris Cyborg. Ian Cutelaba, the Hulk, the aforementioned Hulk, coming into the room now, does not appear to be wearing any green body paint, at least for now. That could change later. This is, of course, a light heavyweight fight. Coming off a USADA suspension, a reduced suspension due to a prohibited method called ozone therapy, but Cutelaba was able to prove that he was taking it on a physician's orders.
That was a new one.
205?
205 for Mr. Cutelaba. Interestingly, we're using the sliding scale today, not the digital scale for the official weigh-ins. Well, I think the digital scale is more accurate. Here comes Randa Marcos. Her opponent, Nina Ansaroff, just left the room a few minutes ago for this strawweight fight on the UFC Fight Pass prelims. Marcos, always a fan favorite, an adopted Canadian.
Yes,
originally from Iraq.
We claim her, though. We claim her. Definitely claim her as one of our own.
She's a proud immigrant, too. One 115 for Ms. Marcos. Gets a cheer from the crowd. Moving along very nicely here. Don't want to jinx it. Austin Arnett about to come in ahead of his fight with Hakeem Dawodu on the Fox portion of the prelims on Saturday's card here from Calgary. This, of course, is a featherweight bout, and he makes 145.
We're cruising. This will be Austin's second UFC fight. He was not successful in his debut, but again, another talented, not super young, but definitely a talented prospect guy who could make some waves given the right opportunity. Picks up a win on Saturday. We'll see. So good to see Austin make weight. Here we go.
Nicolau and Jedrzejczyk, one of the ones to watch on this weigh-in day because of her struggles in the past, but she says she has been good to go all week. Seems to be in a positive attitude, has a smile on her face as we await her to weigh in for her strawweight fight against Tecia Torres. Speculation that she would move up to 125 after losing both fights to Rose Namajunas. But no, she wants badly to get her belt back at 115. $115 for Nicolau and Jedrzejczyk. Easy peasy for the former UFC women's strawweight champion, even though I'm sure it actually wasn't easy. She did make it look that way coming up on the scale. Working with George Lockhart and his team seems to have paid major dividends for Joanna, who I would imagine we'll be seeing it at strawweight in the near future as we move on here, depending on, of course, what happens in this fight against Tecia Torres.
Yeah, we'll know for sure on Saturday, though she did look really good in the second Rose Namajunas fight, and that was also working with Lockhart, so definitely no complaints there so far, I don't think. And she looked comfortable today, like you said. We don't see the hard part, but looked all right.
The one thing that has stood out to me this week with Joanna is just that unbridled confidence. It does not matter to her one bit that she lost those two fights to Namajunas. She believes that she is as good as ever.
That would do.
And here comes Hakeem Dawadu.
She said Dawadu. We'll go with
Tomato,
Dawadu, yeah.
Tomato. Another Canadian here.
Calgary's own,
local,
yes.
yes, indeed. For his featherweight fight against Austin Arnett. 146 for Hakeem.
Hakeem came into the UFC recently with a lot of hype behind him, and it didn't go his way. He was submitted very quickly, but it looked like one of those situations where he just got caught, and hopes are still very high for Hakeem, especially getting a fight in Calgary. So we'll see if it's a different story this Saturday.
We've already had 17 fighters weigh in, if you can believe it, Alex. Of course, we're still waiting on the two headliners, Eddie Alvarez, Dustin Poirier, and the two co-headliners, Jeremy Stevens and Jose Aldo. And here comes another main card fighter, prospect, Alexander Hernandez, who I am very excited about in this fight against Olivier Aubin Mercier.
Crushed Beneil Dariush in his debut, less than a minute. And now he gets another fairly high, I would say a top 20 lightweight. And we'll see how this kid turns out, but certainly shown a lot of promise. Looks to be in great shape right now.
Potential future star here in Alexander the Great as he steps on the scale for UFC on Fox 30. $155 for Alexander Hernandez.
I spoke to Alexander recently. He was in Vancouver, BC, working with the EA Sports video game team. He's quite charmed by Canada, and he says he plans to win over a lot of Canadian fans, despite the fact that he's fighting a popular Canadian on Saturday. Katlyn Chookagian.
Katlyn Chookagian coming into the room now for her flyweight fight against Alexis Davis. That, of course, is on the UFC Fight Pass prelims Saturday night here from Calgary. $125 for Chookagian, who, of course, comes from New Jersey, trains with the likes of Frankie Edgar and headliner here in Calgary, Eddie Alvarez. Speak
Look at that.
of the devil,
How do you do
Eddie
it?
Alvarez coming into the room here. The headliner of this card, the former UFC lightweight champion, facing Dustin Poirier Saturday. Stepping on the scale.
155.
155 even, that is championship weight. Ever the professional, the underground king. Man has won titles in just about every single place he's fought, and he's trying to get back to that mountaintop once again. And if he beats Dustin Poirier Saturday night, he has a pretty good chance to earn, if not a title fight, because we know the top of that division is kind of being reserved for the Khabib-Conor super fight. We'll hold it.
Minimum exposure, please. There we go. Someone's gone.
Mateus Nicolau is coming into the room. He, of course, meets Dustin Ortiz in a flyweight fight on the Fight Pass prelims. Towels in. Now it looks like we have some security helping out with the towel process. $126 for Mr. Nicolau. And that fight is official. Flyweight. Dustin Ortiz versus Mateus Nicolau.
All good. Was never worried. Was never worried, Mark. Was never worried.
All right, back on the scale. Is he dressed now? All right,
Now he made weight. Now he gets to enjoy and pose.
When this security guard came to work today, Alex, I can bet you that he did not expect to be holding a towel up for a disrobed UFC fighter, but you never know what could happen in Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
But what did he get into this business for then?
Jordan Mean in the room now. We're back in a bit of a rhythm. He, of course, meets Alex Morano in a welterweight fight. Featured prelim on the Fox portion of the prelims. That's right, the prelims will be on Fox, not FS1 for this card. Worth noting. $169 for the Canadian Jordan Mean. His fight with Alex Morano is good to go.
As you mentioned, he's done this many, many times. No issues making weight for Mr. Jordan Mean. What do we have left? Mark?
Well, now our entire undercard, all of our prelim fighters are weighed in. Still waiting for Poirier, Aldo Stevens, and the Canadian gangster himself, Olivier Aubin Mercier. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
That sounds correct to me.
Aubin Mercier.
My Quebecers and Maritimers forgive me if I'm incorrect, but I believe Mark nailed it.
Looks like we're in for possibly a bit of a break. Commission officials have left the room.
We've got over an hour, plenty of time for the remaining fighters.
Plenty of time. No one is. We've not reached the danger zone yet.
Not at all.
During these UFC on Fox 30 weigh-ins.
Mark, I wanted to pick up on something you were talking about earlier, talking more about the main event. It is such a good one, and I like the phrase you used that the first fight was taken away, because it's a shame that most people, just from now on, will remember it for the ending and for the no contest, because it probably was still, I have to run through the list in my head, but probably still was one of the 10 best fights, regardless of how it was probably one of the 10 best UFC fights last year. But yeah, nobody talks about it, and I understand it was a really, really crappy, unsatisfying ending. But yeah, very rarely do we get a second chance in these things. So it definitely was taken away.
Here comes Jeremy Stevens at the UFC on Fox 30 official weigh-ins. Stevens, of course, faces Jose Aldo in our co-main event. It is a featherweight fight. $144 for Jeremy Stevens. The Alliance MMA product, fighting out of San Diego, California.
Speaking of guys who've done this before, 29th UFC fight, now tied well, when Saturday rolls around, now will be tied for the record for most fights with Jim Miller and Michael Bisping.
All right, Dustin Poirier is
back to
coming in
business.
now. We'll
Suspense.
reconvene on that in a
To be
minute.
continued.
Poirier, one of our headliners, he's facing Eddie Alvarez in this pivotal lightweight bout at UFC on Fox 30, stepping on the scale now.
Balança.
156 for Dustin Poirier, the Diamond, Louisiana native, longtime American top team product. An incredible resume. We have the aforementioned Jose Aldo
How do you do it?
coming into the room now. The
How do you do
towel,
it?
the towel's out.
$146.
146 for Jose Aldo. Our co-main event is good to go. Aldo versus Jeremy Stevens at UFC on Fox 30 in Calgary. Aldo is never an easy weight cut for Jose Aldo. Does look a little bit drawn.
Here we go, last one.
Towel was out, but it's just to wipe him down because he is in fact a gangster. Alvin Mercier faces Alexander Hernandez tomorrow night on the main card of UFC on Fox 30.
Wait. 156. Thank you. 5 seconds.
156 for Olivier Alvin Mercier. And I think that we're done.
That's it?
I think everyone has weighed in successfully. No hiccups, no drama.
That's so fast.